Welcome to 30 Days of Preparedness. Now, every day in September, you're going to be greeted with a different prepping video. And this has been organized by Morgan at Rogue Preparedness, so thank you, Morgan. And I have the links for all the channels down below. Please check them out and subscribe so you don't miss a single video. Well, I have been asked, what are the best prepping books? And that's kind of a loaded question because it really depends on what your skill levels are. Are you beginning, intermediate, advanced? Where you live? Do you live in the city? Do you live in the country? Those type of things. So I'm going to give you my selection for the best books. But you might have differing opinions. Please comment below if you find there are others that are better. I would love to hear. But these are what I have in my library. Oh, let me show you my library. Yep, it's a pretty extensive prepping library. On the top, I have all my cookbook general, which you can't see. But then on the next shelf, I have bushcraft and survival, emergency preparedness and medical. Next shelf, I have homesteading, foraging and butchering and gardening. And on the bottom shelf, I have homemaking and repair, miscellaneous, and pantry cookbooks. But I think it's really important to have both hardcover books and digital resources. So I'm going to go over both of those with you. And I know having an extensive library can be expensive, but you can scour at your local Goodwill or used bookstore or even online for used books and find great deals. I mean, look at this one. One of them I'm going to talk about is the Combat Medic Field Reference. New, it's almost $85, but pre-owned, $16.15 and in good condition. So you can get good deals if you just look around. So I have a lot of books to choose from, and I have to pick what are the best ones. Well, believe me, that really isn't easy. What I suggest is only my opinion. Again, love to hear from you below what you think are the best books. Well, the first category is, to me, general prepping. And I'm looking at this from more of a beginner point of view. And I think one of the best ones is Prepping 101. It is by Kathy Harrison. It says, protect your family, prepare for weather disasters, be ready and resilient when emergencies arise. And let's see, I had gotten this for $10.98, I think, at Sam's Club at one time. But why I like it for beginners is a lot of pages and a lot of graphs. There it's telling you how to make drinking water, how to use the bleach. Here it's telling you how to stock up on certain things. This is making a kit for your car. I mean, it goes over a lot of the basics. Let's see if we look in the content. Wow, yeah, it even has prepare for your pets. Really is a lot here. So I like it. I think it is nicely done, nicely illustrated, not too much wordiness, just gets to the facts. And I think this is a great start for a prepper or anybody if you want to see if you have all the areas taken care of. Now, she also wrote another book, Just in Case, How to Be Self-Sufficient When the Unexpected Happens. And I actually got this from a subscriber at one time, Asa Rubin. I like the back, don't be scared, be prepared. So this goes into a little more detail, I think. But again, really good guide for preppers. I think preppers of all stages. Now, when you look into free for preppers, well, FEMA has some resources. This is their basic preparedness manual. And then something which I think is still available. This was the 2012 version. I don't think it's been reprinted. and it is the LDS Preparedness Manual, and this is Handbook 2, Provident Living. It has loads and loads. Let's see if I can go into read you some of the table of contents. Emergency preparedness, why, getting started, food storage tools and references, grains and legumes, sugar, milk, fats and oils, cooking essentials, processing and preservation, sprouting, storage, every needful thing, like a kit, your 72-hour emergency kit, evacuation, communication, financial, medical, defense, heating, cooking, lighting, clothing, shelter, sanitation, testing your preparedness, babies and small children, pandemics, terrorist attack, and preparedness outside your comfort zone. So I believe you can still get this free if you send in your email address, and they'll give you a PDF version that you can download. So it's really a good resource, and I think it's great for preppers, not just beginning preppers, preppers period, even if you aren't a LDS member. Now let's talk about first aid. Everybody should have a good first aid manual. In fact, I think you should have at least 2, maybe 3. One by your first aid supplies at home, one in every vehicle you own, and one in the workplace. Let me show you what I keep in my first aid supplies. It's here. It's the DK First Aid Manual. I like it again because it's easy. It's kind of color coded here. So let's see. Let's look into what's red. Okay, red, life-saving priorities. If we go into, and goes into the respiratory system itself. What happens for the inhalation of fumes. Explains about the heart and blood vessels, so it's not just talking about what to do in case of a heart attack, and bleeding and type of wounds. I mean, it has a lot of information, including fracture care, nervous system problems. I really like it because it has a lot of nice diagrams, and it is endorsed by the American College of Emergency Physicians. So this is the one I keep at home, but I have a different one in the car. So this is my emergency first aid kit for the car, and you see I got this little bag here. So this actually, are my gloves. Very important to keep right at the front. But this little pack back here is what I keep in the car. It is the First Aid and Survival and CPR Home and Field Pocket Guide. And can you see all these little, tags at the bottom? So like if you wanted to look at injury, you can easily find it here, and it would go into all the things that you need to think about or do. If it goes into, like, here's one for poison. Again, separate tab. I really like this because depending on the emergency, you might have to find something very, very quick. So having a good index, or in this case tab system, is important. So this is what I use in my car kit. Something that is free and excellent online is this. It's the Marine First Aid Manual. This Marine Manual has 228 pages of excellent information. I have a link below. I mean, just look at this table of contents. Fundamental criteria for first aid, basic measures, for specific injuries, anything from burn to chest wounds to bandages, first aid for fractures, first aid for climatic injuries, for bites and stings, and even first aid in a nuclear, biological, and chemical environment. And you might as well download it for free because it was funded by taxes I'm sure you paid. And I have another one you might want to consider. It's the Red Cross First Aid in Armed Conflicts and Other Situations of Violence. Again, completely free. I have PDF below, but it is going into specific training that you should have. How do you care for casualties? How do you manage it? How can you provide care on the spot? What are the life-saving techniques, stabilization techniques? Anyway, a lot of great information. And again, it's completely free. This is the Combat Medic Field Reference. Again, if you wanted to keep something with you, especially if you were volunteering maybe in a disaster type of situation, or keep this in your car, wherever, this is something you might want to consider. But it is very expensive new. Now, something that a lot of the prepper sites talk about is the Survival Medicine Handbook, and that is by Joseph Alton, MD, and Amy Alton, nurse. They also are big preppers, and they have their own website, so you may want to check them out and get this book. It goes into a little bit more detail about like antibiotic uses and things of that nature. And then there is a free version. I'll see if I can find it below, but this is Where There Is No Doctor. And again, it comes up with some techniques that you might not think of that they've had to use actually more in the bush type of thing. And it's got great little diagrams. What do you do if you get a black widow spider bite? Or guinea worm. I hope you don't ever get that. But it has a lot of different things. Very important one, what do you do for diarrhea and dysentery? And it goes over to some of the recipes that you can make to help somebody who is becoming dehydrated. Even how to deliver a baby. I mean, a lot of emergency medicine, it is called When There Is No Doctor. And I will see if I can find that free version, that PDF version for you too. But you know what? Not a bad idea to buy this book. Well, that's it, what I have here for first aid, but there's a lot of resources out there. And make sure whatever you pick, you actually read that manual, know where information is in the manual, and consider taking some additional classes in first aid, such as CPR or fracture care, that type of thing. It is a great idea. Survival. You know, that's a big thing, right? For emergency preparedness. Sometimes I think too much emphasis is put on survival. By that I mean wilderness survival. The chances of you having to survive for weeks on end in the wilderness is pretty slim. You know, it makes great TV shows and books, but chances are that is not what you need to concentrate on for your prepping. For your prepping, your emergency preparedness should first be concentrate on looking at your threat assessment, your water storage, your food, your first aid. But like everybody else in prepping community, I am interested also in the survival books, and I have, let's see here, the one manual that everybody seems to point to is the SAS. This is the revised edition by John Lofty Wiseman, Survival Handbook for Any Climate in Any Situation. And it really does have a lot of interesting information in it. What happened if you're stranded in a vehicle? How to, let's see here, different methods of cooking. Little stone barriers here, and how to make shelters. make spears from scratch. I mean, it has a lot of things, including how to identify some plants, medicinal plants in your area, how, what snakes, poisonous snakes might be there, that type of thing, even what sharks. So I have the little version of this in my vehicle kit, which is also kind of the bug out bag, I guess, because this is kind of heavy to take around. But this is a good manual. It was written by the British, so in some cases it might not be as applicable to where you live, but it's a guide to consider. Something that I think is really good in that same vein though is this, the Camping and Wilderness Survival Guide, and it's by Paul Tarwell. I mean, it's huge. It goes into jungles. It goes into, here is, okay, different holds to, I guess, climb up a mountain. Winter animal tracks. And this is different bait you can use. I mean, it's one of those things that is just stock full of information, and even goes into atmospheric phenomena and different animals you might encounter. It would take a long time to read the whole thing, but I think it's really interesting. Again, this is very expensive if you had to pay for it in the new, but you can pick up a really reasonably priced used copy. And especially if you're a camper or hiker, I think you would really enjoy this guide. Now, something else, you might have one of these in your family already if you've had a Boy Scout or you were a Boy Scout, and that is the Boy Scout Handbook. Now, I just happened to pick this up used, but it also has a lot of interesting things for safe techniques for cutting down trees. And this is how to use your orienting skills. And how to set up your tarps and tents. I mean, it has a lot of information that could be for camping or survival. And like I said, you might already own this, but you might not have read it in entirety. Now, something else I should have... I also have this survival book, and this is the U.S. Navy SEAL Survival Handbook. It caught my eye when I was at Sam's Club one day and I got it. It's got very nice pictures in it. Again, it goes over for its contents. The SEER training, the elements of survival, jungle survival, mountain and Arctic survival, desert survival, survival at sea, basic survival tips, water, shelter and fire, food and hunting, weather, navigation, survival medicine, survival kits, and the mystery of survival. So, interesting book. But if you want to save money, there's an excellent guide that you can get, a PDF guide online. And that is the Air Force SEER Manual. And that stands for Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape. I mean, look at the contents for this. It goes on and on here. Talking about panic, talking about impatient, knowledge of the weather, how to use a life preserver. He went into political allegiance, clothing to wear for ice and snow, elements of fire and fire site preparation, plant food, food in tropical climates, food in dry climates, food in snow and ice climates, food on the open sea, and how do you prepare that game food, determining your specific position, camouflage and concealment techniques, evasion consideration. I mean, it is packed full of information. And the nice thing about this guide is it is free, and it is a 652-page manual, and it has a lot of color illustrations in it. So download it. Again, it was prepared with government money, tax money, right? So it's free to the taxpayers. Take advantage of these resources. Now, something else mentioned often is When All Hell Breaks Loose by Corey London. And you might have watched him at one time on TV. I never watched those programs. But this is talking about urban and suburban survival. Important. Not all of us are rural. Predator versus prey. Defining your urban survival priorities. How much stuff do you need? Shelter, free food, crucially creative cooking. Should I stay or should I go now? Anyway, it's written pretty interesting, and it's especially good if you are more city or suburban. Now, for bushcraft, which really is not emergency preparedness, but it is fun, and a lot of those skills could come in handy maybe, but they really come in handy if you're a camper or hiker, I think. I still think this is a great book. This is Bushcraft, Outdoor Skills and Wilderness Survival by Mors Kochanski, and it is really just a wealth of information with a lot of different diagrams. And look at this one, how to tie logs together, how to make certain structures. Here it is on a bow drill. I mean, great book to have. There's also a free resource for foraging, Edible Wild Plants. It's an excellent book, and it is by John Callis. And look at the contents here. You have everything from identifying chickweed to sheep sorrel to garlic mustard. Oh, I know that one. I've lost my battle with it. To cat's ear. And it talks about the nutrition of wild foods. And this PDF is 410 pages, again with color illustrations. So if you're interested in a free foraging guide, check it out. Now, when we talk about that, you might want a foraging guide that is for the area where you live. I live in Michigan, so this one is Midwest Foraging, 115 wild and flavorful edibles from burdock to wild peach, and it's by Lisa M. Rose. Get beautiful pictures. This is a serviceberry, which I know we sometimes find up north. And okay, we know this one, right? Oak. But those acorns can come in handy. They can even make flour. And here's the honeysuckle. So it's great. It helps you identify plants and weeds that are actually tasty or useful. So think about having a foraging guide that is for your area. The other thing that prepping kind of gets mixed up with is homesteading or being self-sufficient. And I think we all want to be resilient, right? We want to be as self-sufficient as we can, and homesteaders often epitomize that. So some of the books for that, I think this is a great one. Oh, it's a heavy one. It is John Seymour's Self-Sufficient Life and How to Live It. It's a DK, the complete Back to Basics guide. And again, great pictures. How to identify certain leaves. How to grow things here. Okay. So, typical farmyard. It's going to talk about livestock. And it goes into each individual livestock. Goes into gardening, making cheese. Anyway, it's nicely illustrated and it's a nice guide. One I also like is called The Backyard Homestead, because this is for people who don't have a lot of acreage. And it says from 1/4 of an acre, you can harvest 1,400 eggs, 50 pounds of wheat, 60 pounds of fruit, 2,000 pounds of vegetables, 280 pounds of pork, 75 pounds of nuts. Put your backyard to work. And this is by, well, it's edited by Carleen Madigan. So again, here's talking about raw milk versus pasteurized, or how to grow grapes, making vinegars. A great little guide. So I find this really helpful. Now, a lot of people on their sites mention this guide here. Yeah, this is the Country Wisdom and Know-How, everything you need to know to live off the land, from the editors of Story Books. It's a practical guide to simple living. And it does have, I mean, you name it, it's in here. It's all, though, in little print like that. So it would be something that's a bit harder to find, I think. Has a lot of different recipes in it, even how to do crafts from nature. Even fun things like a butterfly garden. But it does have the contents here that can help you. And it has anything from animals, birds and bats, to cats and dogs, even like housebreaking your puppy. Rabbits, livestock, all kinds of cooking information, bread making, preserving, like I said, crafts, gardening, kitchen herbs as well, and fruits and berries, beauty and bath even, natural home remedies and recipes and elixirs, and simple home repairs, fence, orchard, outbuildings, and more. Anyway, it is loads and loads of information, but it just is very small print. And there are no color illustrations, so it might not appeal to some people, but it is a fun book to look through. Again, it's one that you want to read and pick out information. Now, we could go into gardening. There are so many different books available for gardening, and it kind of depends on what you choose. For free books, we have A Vegetable Garden for All, and it is written by Department of the United Nations, and it goes into vegetable gardens and what is hydroponics, and how to store, like the seeds, you know, what seed saving, what about breeding poultry and rabbits for your garden. And it's just a nice little resource, and it is 269 pages, and you can download it completely free. Another one you might want to check out is the Farmer's Almanac Beginner's Guide, and in here you have a garden planning tips, sample plans, choosing the right location, soil prep, sowing seeds, transplanting, raised bed or container garden, pests. So it gives you a lot of overview of information, and it is 20 pages, again, completely free. Now, the book I always started with that I really enjoyed was, when I got into vegetable gardening, was the all-new Square Foot Gardening, Grow More in Less Space, and by Mel Bartholomew. I don't completely follow it anymore, but it was really helpful in the beginning because everything was kind of graphed out, and it was very well written to know how to start your vegetable garden, what you needed to do. So I still highly recommend this book if you're getting into gardening. But otherwise, there's so many different modes of gardening now. And there's a lot of resources out there. So you might want to check with your cooperative extension for your state or your local county, because they would have a lot of information targeted for your area. And again, it's free. Another book that you might want to consider if you're really an everyday prepper like myself is The Ultimate Guide to Home Repair and Improvement. And this is by Creative Homeowner, and goes over, let's say, masonry, or how about power distribution, important. It goes into electric repairs, here into wiring paths, wiring appliances, toilet repair. We all have had that, right? Indoor air quality, drywalling. I mean, a lot of things in this one book that can really help you if you want to save money and you have a home repair. So this is my one recommendation for everyday prepping. Now, I could go into a bunch of books on preparing your pantry, food preservation, such as canning books and dehydrating books, in a lot of different skills. But I can't cover everything in this one video. I just wanted to give you more an overview of the basics, and maybe sometime in another video I'll go a little bit more in depth in other skills. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Hey, thumbs up if you did, and make sure you are watching all the other 30 Day of Preparedness videos, because we all need to share the knowledge. Thank you.